Hello creative ones, it's Michelle Brown here at mixedmediaart.net, and today I wanted to share one of my favourite new products with you. It's the Stamperia Mixed Media Volume Paste, so let's just jump in so I can show you some examples and show you how to use it. So this really is my current favourite product. It's the Stamperia Mixed Media Art Volume Paste, and it comes in this container. This is the white one. And I just love it because it's creamy, it's rich, it's so much fun. And it comes in, it's a paste, quite a thick, creamy paste. Let me show you some of the things I've done and then we'll use it. So here I've put it on top of some scrapbooking paper, a 6x6 sheet through a stencil. Here I've put it onto a piece of ephemera and you can really see how it sits on top. Being that white, it really does stay there. Now this is put on some paper that I've dyed, and this has actually brought some of the colour through, so it's coloured it a little bit, but that was certainly the same paste, it's just pulled the colour through. And again, here's another one that's discoloured just a little bit, but again, I don't mind it because the paper's grungy anyway, so that was the idea, is to have it sort of really grungy so that it just adds some real interest to it. Now here's a couple of ATCs we've made. And the interesting thing about that is that we've actually then inked over them with a sponge and some ink. And so that's actually given it some colour. So rather than mixing any colour in the paste, we've actually just put the ink over the top. And then we've been able to stamp over that as well. So that works just as well whether you want to leave it white or whether you want to add some colour. So let's have a play. So I've got my mat down here because it can be a little bit messy. And we do just need to be a bit patient with this process. We've got our volume paste. I've got a palette knife. I've got one of my favourite stencils at the moment. It's a Vicky P stencil by Stamperia. We've got that in the shop. I do find that it really doesn't matter which stencil you use, but some look better than others. So it's always good to have a bit of a practice and see what you like. So here I've got a few different papers. I've got some gel prints that I've cut up into smaller pieces, another piece of scrapbooking paper, and I've got some ephemera as well. So let's jump in. Let's just start one at a time. So I'm going to make sure I've got a nice flat surface, and I've got somewhere for it to dry as well. It doesn't take a long time to dry, maybe sort of 20 minutes or so, but you really want to make sure that you're not going to swish it. And let it dry. So like I said, you can see it's quite a thick paste. So I'm just going to dip in the end of my palette knife, hold my stencil firmly. Now, of course, you could mask it, but I usually aren't quite that patient. And then we just want to really gently spread it over the top. And what you find that it, like any stencil, it goes in, but you can also see that you don't waste a lot because you can just keep scraping and move any that's sitting from the top down into it. Now this stencil isn't going to cover the whole page, that's okay. So I'm sort of making sure that I'm feathering the ends to give it a little bit of interest. You can see where it's sitting or it's not sitting, so you can go back. I could always add a bit more. And because you really just use that light layer, it really doesn't waste much on the stencils. Now some places you just need to push it backwards and forwards. Again, it really depends on your stencil. Then when you're ready, you want to lift it up really gently, lift it straight up. Careful with that because that's obviously still going to be wet, and there you can see just how gorgeous it is, that white on the coloured paper. You can see that it sticks up, it's still wet, so we're going to set that one aside. Let's do some on this, a gorgeous piece of ephemera. So again, this is stuff that I'll use for collage, so I'm not trying to cover the whole bit, just to get some interest on it, so when I tear it up I can add colour to it. I've got some bits ready to collage. And that's why we really, when we're talking about, layering mixed media, this volume paste just adds such a textural element. There are lots of different pastes around. I just find this one's really light and smooth. It spreads well. It dries fairly quickly. And it does take that ink over the top of it if you wanted to colour it in. So there we go. And I said don't add too much, just lifting it really carefully. Yep. And there we go. Set that one aside. Now let's see what it looks like on these little bits. Again, I might use a slightly different section of the stencil so it doesn't look too repetitive. And then hold it firmly. So you could do this straight into your art journal. It doesn't have to be on pieces of ephemera. You just need to make sure you do let it dry before you add anything on top of it. So give it, at least a good half an hour. If you can, I'd let it dry overnight, really depending on the temperature of where you're at, the temperature of your craft area. Now you can see I've really got most of that off the stencil. There's a little bit left on my palette knife, so I'm just going to scrape it back in on the side. Now you do need to make sure you wash your stencil and your palette knife as quickly as you can. So I'm going to sit it in some water. Let's pull this one off. There we go. Now it's not going to damage your stencils, but after a while it does build up a little bit. So you do want to make sure that you get it washed off fairly quickly. So there we go. Set that one aside. And I'll have some gorgeous ephemera just like these ones. So whether it's on book pages, whether it's on just straight ephemera that you've coloured, some scrapbooking paper, whether you're using it in ATCs or in your journals, just that Stamperia Mixed Media Art Volume Paste is so much fun to play with. So I hope you've enjoyed that little look into using that Stamperia volume paste through stencils. It really is such a lovely way to add visual texture and textural texture to your art journaling, whether it's a canvas or a card or an ATC or whatever you might be making. You can do it on ephemera to use later, or you can put it directly into your journal once you've added colour, or putting it down the bottom and then adding your colour and layers on top. There's just so many different ways you can use it. So if you're looking for more information, head over to mixedmediaart.net and click on the shop online button, and you will be able to find all the information out about the volume paste. So this is Michelle signing off. I hope you have a crafty day.